The show fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. So the Cumulus cluster is off tomorrow, which is normally when we tape the install with Greg Cosell. So I texted Greg yesterday, and he was kind enough to accommodate us here today. You can check out the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. You can subscribe to 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel, where you can watch full episodes there. How we living, buddy?
We're doing great, Buck. How are you?
I'm good. Just getting ready to take a little bit of a respite. I know you and I have been previewing divisions here in the last couple of weeks on the podcast and talking about the latest news. But one piece of news that we did not have the opportunity to get to in our AFC North preview, and we mentioned that this may be the case later that afternoon, Aaron Rodgers signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Since then, there have been a great many transactions with Pittsburgh, Greg. And I wonder, before we talk about the specifics of the players that are coming and going from Pittsburgh and then to Miami via this trade, what you kind of make of the Pittsburgh Steelers construction right now, because it just seems like a very un-Steelers-like offseason to me.
Yeah, normally, I mean, again, history suggests that the Steelers tend to be kind of deliberate in how they go about things. Obviously they've had not many head coaches. They don't make rash decisions. That's been their history. But, when you struggle to win in the playoffs year after year after year, at some point, I guess you feel like, hey, we need to take that next step. And how do we go about doing it? So they obviously signed Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure people have many opinions about Aaron Rodgers, but he still throws the ball extremely well. The one difference with Rodgers as he's gotten older is he certainly doesn't move the way he used to, Buck, but he still throws the ball extremely well, and he's extremely intelligent. So they feel very secure at quarterback. He's absolutely an upgrade over Russell Wilson. So they feel that they've upgraded that position. As we probably discussed months ago, they traded for DK Metcalf. So they feel that they have that top 5-6 type receiver in the league, and he gives them a true vertical dimension. And then, of course, they made the big trade, which I guess was that yesterday? I believe it was yesterday.
Monday morning.
Monday? Was it Monday?
Yeah, the days blur together at this point, Greg. It was the rare trade that comes out in 3 different parts of reporting.
I know. So, the interesting thing to me is they traded for Jalen Ramsey. And, based on what they have at the corner position, it seems to me he's going to be their nickel, not their starting outside corner. Now, that might change because don't forget they signed Darius Slay. I don't think they want to take Joey Porter off the field. So, this fascinates me. No one's questioning Ramsey. I mean, I've spoken to people coaches that have had Ramsey, on that team, with the teams he's been on, and they say he's obviously a great player. He's super intelligent. But when you look at Darius Slay and Joey Porter, is Ramsey going to play in their base defense? Is he only going to play in nickel? Are they going to play a lot more nickel now because Ramsey is sort of a combo, slot corner linebacker, and he's certainly big enough to be a tackler, which he's good at. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deploy him. My guess is he's not going to get a ton of snaps on the outside, but again, the Rams, when he was with the Rams, didn't use him that way much either, and he was a really, really good player. So it's really going to be intriguing how this plays out.
In that situation, though, Greg, would then Darius Slay be their other outside starting corner? Because I know you're familiar with him from his time in Philadelphia, and obviously he's been in the league for a long time now. I mean, Darius Slay has had a great career. I don't mean to shade him at all, but I think he's well past the peak of his powers. You would agree?
Yeah, although he did play really well in the playoffs, and obviously I'm sure that's one reason they signed him. They didn't know they were going to trade for Jalen Ramsey at the time they traded Darius Slay, and they clearly felt they needed a quality corner opposite Joey Porter. You can take a team like the Buffalo Bills as an example. The Buffalo Bills play nickel on a very, very high percentage of snaps. I mean, I'm talking about 95, 96, 97% of their snaps. Will this be the case with the Pittsburgh Steelers so that Jalen Ramsey Slay and Porter are always on the field. This is something we don't know the answer to. They obviously felt comfortable trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, who at his best is one of the 2 or 3 best safeties in the league, because they had signed Juan Thornhill from Cleveland, and Juan Thornhill started many games in this league, and Deshaun Elliott's the other safety. And I've spoken to coaches on teams that Deshaun Elliott was on, and they say that this kid is super intelligent. So, they feel comfortable at safety, even though they got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But it would not surprise me to see this team, almost play nickel as a foundational defense.
Greg Cosell is here with us. Normally we do the install on Thursday mornings in your podcast feed. Greg is accommodating our holiday schedule by joining us now on the radio show.
And then there's Jonnu Smith, Greg, who's included in that package, going from Miami after a career year where he was one of the most productive tight ends in football up to Pittsburgh, reunites him with Arthur Smith, who, of course, was his play caller here in Tennessee. Number one, how impressed were you with Jonnu Smith and what he was able to do last season? And number two, how intrigued are you to see him back with Art Smith with Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback in Pittsburgh?
Well, now you've got another fascinating situation, Lucas, because, they played a lot of 2 and even 3 tight ends a year ago, and they have Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, the big kid from Georgia, who was a 3rd-round pick. Connor Hayward played a lot of snaps. I mean, Jonnu Smith, I always liked him from when he came out of college. I mean, he's more of a movement type tight end or receiving tight end, and he can give you that for sure. So now it's going to be interesting how all that works. Someone's going to be the odd man out, and it's not going to be Freiermuth. Freiermuth is a really good football player. So, someone like Darnell Washington, who, does have really good athletic traits. He's not necessarily a great player right now, but he's a really good blocker, and he does have receiving traits. So obviously Arthur Smith knows him. I think they were 4 years together, if memory serves me correctly, in Nashville. So, Arthur Smith clearly knows Jonnu Smith and what his strengths and limitations are. But this becomes another really interesting dynamic as to how they work in Smith, who they clearly are going to work in. It's not as if he's not going to play, but they've got a pretty complete tight end room. Someone's going to be the odd man out.
Greg, I completely forgot about the existence of Darnell Washington. You bring up that name, just absolute freak of nature coming out of Georgia. Felt like he was such an intriguing prospect, and there he is in a stacked tight end room.
Yeah, I mean, so, either they're disappointed in Washington. I mean, Connor Hayward's different. He was a 6th-round pick. I don't mean that. That means he's just disposable, because he did get meaningful snaps a year ago and made some plays for the Steelers. But, Darnell Washington, I remember being at the Combine. He put up huge Combine numbers. Obviously, he was a 3rd-round pick, not a higher pick, just because he was a raw kid, but he's a really good blocker. There's receiving traits there, to be cultivated. So, again, this is, look, it's in their mind, they probably have an embarrassment of riches, and every team would like to be in that situation. They're certainly going to be, the O-line's going to be interesting, because Rodgers doesn't move as well, and Broderick Jones is now going to be the left tackle, and he has not been very good in 2 years in the league, playing mostly right tackle. So they're going to play Troy Fautanu, who was a rookie a year ago and didn't play at all during the season, who was a left tackle at the University of Washington. They're moving him to right tackle. So to me, the tackle position is a question mark as we sit here and speak early in July.
I was reading some of the Steelers reporters' insights on this, and I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Caboli, Greg, but
I know he is, for sure.
He tweeted out, "What I've been told is the Steelers view Jonnu Smith as a tight end, a slot wide receiver, and a fullback. They will use him in a very hybrid way in Arthur Smith's offense." And I know what that looks like, because I've seen Art and Jonnu work together. I know exactly what that deployment looks like.
Yeah.
But what immediately popped into my mind, Greg, is, well, yeah, but Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, and what if he doesn't like Jonnu Smith's role in that offense? That's probably the most difficult thing to kind of parse at this point. And maybe Rodgers is going to be more of a good soldier that way and go along with what they want to run as an offense. But I just assumed any team that brings in Aaron Rodgers is also importing the Aaron Rodgers offense.
You are, to some extent. I remember talking to a coach who'd been in the league for 35 years, really well-respected coach, and he always talked about great veteran quarterbacks who've been in the league a long time, and obviously with the best resumes you could possibly have. Rodgers will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. but he was speaking to me about Peyton Manning. And he said, once Peyton Manning, when he got to Denver, he was already a Hall of Famer based on what he'd done in Indianapolis. He said, if you're the OC, you're essentially running Peyton Manning's offense. You have ideas and there's some things you can work in, but you're essentially running Peyton Manning's offense. So it's going to be interesting with Arthur Smith. You guys know him. I've met him, but I certainly don't know him. He certainly has an offense that he wants to run. I don't know if that's what Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with or not. You have to make, some concessions to a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers because he's got to feel comfortable with everything. That's why you bring him in. You're not bringing him in to force feed an offense that he's not comfortable with. Now, I'm not saying he is or isn't comfortable with what Arthur Smith's going to do, but that's more a marriage than it is, hey, you're going to run my offense.
For sure. And understandably so. A player the caliber of Rodgers, even at age 41, is somebody who has to be, you have to acclimate, and that's what the best coaches do, right? Callahan's talked about this with us. You don't prioritize your scheme over your talent. If you're a good enough coach, you make it work with the players that you've got. Greg Cosell of NFL Films is here with us. We're doing a live version of the install since we will not be available to tape tomorrow morning at our regularly scheduled time, or at least I won't. Fortunate for us, Greg was able to adjust. So with that said, Greg, Miami is on the other side of this thing, and Minkah Fitzpatrick heads down there. Miami's transaction that would at least seem to address their tight end need that Jonnu creates was to bring Darren Waller out of retirement. But let's start with Minkah. What is a fair analysis of Minkah Fitzpatrick? Because he doesn't seem to be a player that is on the backside of his career, but I forget how long he's in the league, and he's also somebody who is deployed in a variety of different roles within that Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Yeah, he's been mostly a safety with the Steelers. Early in his career with Miami, he played some slot corner. He'll be a safety. Look, at his best, I didn't study him as an individual in great detail, so I did read someone say that they didn't think he had his best season, but I would say at his best, he's a top 2 safety in the league. He's kind of what they call a 5-tool safety. He can do everything when he's at his best. So, this is a team that their back end is really problematic as we speak right now. Miami, you look at the corner position, you don't even really know. I mean, right now, if you just look as I am, because it's July, and I'm not up on every team's depth chart as of now because there's changes and there'll be more changes. Right now, they have listed as the starting outside corners, Kader Kohu and Storm Duck, and they have Artie Burns as the nickelback.
Yeah.
And they brought in Melifonwu from Detroit to be one safety, and now Minkah will be the other safety. But if you just look at the corner position, those are major questions. No one would know how those guys are going to play. So their secondary is at this time of year, I hate to say that anything's bad because you never know, but it's a major question as we speak here right now.
Yeah, like you said, too early to determine if it's bad or good or otherwise, but suspect at the very least.
Yes.
To your point.
That's a good word.
He's Greg Cosell. He's the main man. He's always good to make time for us on the podcast. Of course, he regularly makes appearances on 3HL as well, where you can hear all of his great insights and analysis. Buddy, always good to catch up with you. And I'm sure you're working through the week. I imagine that Greg Cosell is not taking days off the way the rest of us are, but I do appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. I'm watching tape. I'll do that tomorrow, but Friday I will not be here because Saturday is my older daughter's birthday, so I'm taking Friday off as well. So it is the 4th. Yeah. I do that usually.
Get Stephen A. out of here. No, that's not fair. What you just did. That's Greg Cosell. Well, we hope your daughter has a wonderful birthday, and we hope you have a wonderful 4th.
We do care.
I appreciate that, guys. Thanks. We'll talk soon, Buck.
All right, buddy. That's Greg Cosell. What are you doing back there? Completely disorienting him with Stephen A. Smith sound.
We don't have another happy birthday.
We do. It's Otis Reese's birthday.
No, I mean, we don't have Frosty the Snowman saying, a happy birthday. We don't have anything like that.
Nobody is immune to the Stephen A.
I feel
happy
like Greg
birthday
should be
sound.
immune from this.
If it's your birthday, you get the Stephen A. sound. That's just how it works.
All right. Are we doing Friday Fire on a Wednesday?
You better believe it.
Do we have things to give away for Friday Fire?
Oh, do we? We got Jason Aldean, not going to his bar, going to see him.
Okay, Jason Aldean tickets. If you give us your moment of positivity, it's a short week, and because we're mailing it in, today we are going to do Friday Fire on a Wednesday. 2 giveaways, not even in the same show, but in the same hour. How about that?
How lucky are we?
We are peak mailing it in today. Friday Fire, your moment of positivity, 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, we would be happy to have you, whether it be personal, professional, sports, or otherwise. We will give you our Friday Fire. You can give us yours next.